Welcome back, everyone. In this episode, we are talking with CJ Gilbert of Gilbert Studios, website extraordinaire. He's going to be talking about all things related to your website, which is likely going to be one of the first impressions you make to a lot of your new customers. We'll see you in there. Welcome back, everyone. So you've developed your financials and you're ready to officially launch the business. Now, likely the first impression you're going to make, aside from yourself, is your website. So one of the most critical things as you get started. So I'm extremely excited to have CJ Gilbert here of Gilbert Studios, website extraordinaire, where we're going to talk all of the things that you need to know as you get started with what can be a pretty daunting process.
Definitely.
So CJ, I was thinking what we'll do is we're going to go back in time, back when I was starting my company and had no clue how to establish a website. And I want to just hit kind of all of the questions that I was asking at the time and get a subject matter expert to actually answer and revisit all of the hours and hours and hours I spent pouring through Google, but now we actually have you to talk to.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited. So where I want to start is, I know how important this is. I want to make the best first impression, but obviously I'm a new business owner and time is money and I don't know how involved I want to get or even where to start.
Right.
And the first thing that I remember looking at is, where do I build this? How do I even do it? And there's a lot of different popular options available. How do you typically walk a client through that and understanding which of those options is ultimately best for their circumstances?
That's a great question. I want to talk about a couple things really quick about that. And the first idea is, where should I build my website? What platform should I use? What software should I use? And there's a lot of options out there right now, and some are better than others depending on your goal. A lot of people are asking me about tools like Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, and our WordPress. What should I use?
All ones I remember looking at.
Absolutely, absolutely. So here's my take on that. As a web developer, I want you to build something that you can control and own and have for a long term. And my caution, if you're using any services and tools like Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, is you're tied into using their software. It's a proprietary software. You're paying them on a monthly or yearly basis to use it, and as soon as you don't want to use it or you don't pay for that service anymore, it's gone. The website really never belonged to you.
You're renting it.
You're
kind of
renting it.
Space, if you will.
Exactly. You're renting it and you're tied to that one system. If you want to move anywhere else, you basically have to rebuild your website in a new place and a new software.
And I imagine then and I don't know much about it, of course, that's why I'm talking to you, but if they were to make any updates or changes to that, I mean, you're just going along for the ride, right? You don't really have much say in how that plays out, I would think.
Exactly. And there's not as much control over certain pieces like the search engine optimization, or if you're thinking long-term, what you want to build, what you want to add, you're going to have limitations with some of those platforms.
That makes a lot of sense. So I imagine that's why so many people, myself included, end up choosing WordPress.
Exactly.
Because we have that control.
Exactly. There's a lot of open source software like WordPress. Another one that I'm a fan of is called Joomla. And what it allows you to do is use this software that you don't have to pay a licensing fee to use, and you can build your own website on a website host of your choice. And you fully own and control that website. And I believe your website should be the hub of all of your marketing, everything else that you do. Put it in your website first, then shoot off to social media and all the other places.
Definitely.
So having a website that you can fully own and control, that is under your care and control with your own hosting account, using a software that's not going to go away like WordPress or Joomla or some of these, gives you the greatest term and sets you up for the longest term success.
That makes a lot of sense. And it is really important to own that. I mean, you're creating so much content, a lot of information. I personally went with WordPress, and I remember that was a big reason for it. You actually segued into what I wanted to talk about next. So let's assume now we've understand that we are going to use WordPress, or what was the other one called?
Joomla.
Joomla,
is my favorite, yeah.
Perfect. So we have a couple to compare to. So we've settled on maybe one of those. And then hosting. So that was another big question I had. Ultimately didn't even know really the difference in some of the hosting services. How do you then decide, ultimately this needs to live somewhere, right? And that's basically what we're figuring out. So how do you help someone with that?
Absolutely, and this is a complicated thing to talk about because there's a lot of words and there's a lot of phrases and they can mean two different things depending on how you're using them. So it's confusing. So the first thing I'll define for you is website hosting. So your hosting is kind of like we're renting an apartment for your website to live in on the internet. internet. It's something you can pay for yearly or monthly, but it's a space. It's a space and a place where we put your website, and that's where it lives.
And that's typically the URL part of the process, right? Is that where you're getting
That's
the
another
URL?
piece.
Okay.
That's a connected piece. So that's your domain name. That's the address. So when you buy a piece of real estate, it comes with an address. When you buy virtual real estate, that is to say a website, you get your hosting and you get your domain name, and then you connect the two together.
I love that analogy. Okay, very helpful. I actually get it now.
They're separate, but they're thought of as the same thing.
Okay.
And then the third piece of that is your email, because usually that's involved in the website hosting is running it, the domain name is what you're using on your email, but then what? What other software do you use to access it?
Yes.
That's a totally other conversation.
Yeah, we might have to save them, but we'll get to that because I know you have some resources there.
Definitely.
So one thing I actually don't want to skip over, because with WordPress, I think it is important, because just picking it is one thing, but there's a lot of actual build out that goes into that. So I don't want to neglect how much work, time, and energy went there. There are templates that I remember helping. So that was, I think, a leg up in one sense. There are some pre-filled templates that you can kind of follow. Obviously, I would imagine there's some differences between what you're picking. Probably a good idea to start basic. How should someone new to that process think about the templates and just kind of getting started building that actual?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I see this in a progressive phase, if you will. You know, so, and it depends on what kind of a person you are. If you're someone that likes to tinker and be very hands-on and do these things yourself, you absolutely can. I'll provide a link, resources. You can sign up for your own account, start building it yourself. Awesome. That's absolutely possible. But you may be in a place where that's not the thing you want to spend your time doing. Yeah. You want to spend more time running the business, possibly, instead of building the website or dealing with these other components. And that's when I invite you to reach out to someone like me or someone like me, and have them help you set up these pieces, because there's a lot of moving pieces, and it can be very complicated and very time consuming if you don't know exactly what you want and how to do it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And frankly, that was an area that I spent the money on up front when I was launching my business, because I knew how important this piece was going to be.
Right.
As you're trying to establish credibility, brand awareness, exposure. To your point, everything I do is always trying to drive people to the website. So there's ideally going to be a lot of visibility there. The last thing I wanted was someone to get there and say, kind of unimpressed.
Right.
Right. So I think that's an area that I certainly wouldn't skimp on. And I'm, in hindsight, very glad that I did do that. There's also, though, was plenty of opportunity for my website after it finished. So that's really what I want to focus our time on, is now figuring out what should your website contain, like some of the imaging, brand awareness, calls to action, all of these trendy terms that I'm sure you guys are going to quickly grow to love as you're diving into this. But what I thought would be helpful, so for you guys watching, CJ recently redid my website. So you're right now seeing a before. Actually, as you hit pause and go to drivenwm.com, you're going to see the after, which is everything we developed together. So it's going to be an awesome comparison tool for you guys to utilize. But what I wanted to do today was actually go through my current website, and we can walk through everything you took me through as we began this journey of you redesigning and ultimately improving upon my site.
Absolutely.
So let's just go, for the sake of example, kind of revisit how you initially took me through that journey and some of the questions that you asked to get started and start that thought process.
Absolutely, absolutely. The first question I always ask people is, what are your goals for your website? What do you want the website to do for you as a company? And more importantly, what do you want the website to do for your customer, your client? Those could be two different answers. So it's important to know both of those answers to know where you want to go with that. So that's the first most important question. What are your goals? What do you want the website to do for you and your customer? And the second most important question is, who is your customer? Who is your target market? And you want to be as specific as you possibly can be. I see too many people making the mistake of saying, everybody. I want my customer to be everybody or anybody. But the problem is, when you ask someone to think of anybody or everybody, you think of nobody. So if you can instead give yourself a bullseye, a specific point to shoot for. A lot of people feel uncomfortable with that. They say, I don't want to exclude people. And I say, well, you need to change your mindset a little bit about that, because what's actually true is if you have a bullseye you're shooting at, it gives you a greater chance of hitting the whole target.
Yes.
As opposed to just throwing darts in every random direction, you have no idea where they're going to go.
Yeah, there's the quick, if you haven't heard it already, you're going to quickly learn the expression, when you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one.
Right.
And I think that resounds true. And I can't emphasize this much because you're going to hear this repeatedly throughout this course. The idea of having that target client, the perfect client, avatar, there's all types of terms that we can use for it.
Right.
But this was such a critical process that we went through because frankly, my website did not speak to who that ideal client was as you're looking at it now. And we went through a really awesome sequence of questions that really helped me flesh out exactly who I should be speaking to. So that was a part I personally loved and
Good.
was excited about.
Good. I think it's so important. You know, if you can really create that bullseye that you're shooting for, even if you don't hit that bullseye, you're still going to hit the rings around the target.
Exactly.
You're still hitting the target. So the point is, it's not excluding anyone at all. If anything, it's helping you reach a greater number of people because you have that specific target in your mind.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about, and it took me a little bit of time to actually accept that, but I wanted someone to come to the site, and I think I use the terms like attract or repel.
Right.
I wanted them to either know, hey, this guy is someone I can work with, and I know I'm in good hands, or, oh, this doesn't look like I'm in the right spot. And that's okay. I'm not going to be for everyone, and we kind of talked that through, but I think you giving me empowering me to make that decision was really critical, and as we went through the redesign, I know that was a really helpful part of the process.
Good. Good, really good. So the next thing I want to say is, so once you've asked the question, what do I want my website to do for me and my customer? Number two, who is my customer? That might be your number one question. I'll go back and forth on which one's more important. But once you know what you want your website to do and present, and then you know who your customer is, then when it actually comes to the website, you can do a great job of setting yourself up as the guide for that customer to achieve that goal. And here's a really big tip for you. I see a lot of companies making this crucial mistake. They make their website all about them.
Yeah.
The website is them, all about them, their credentials, their professional organizations, what they do, how long they've been in business, a big picture of their building. Here's the problem. Your customer doesn't care about that. You don't care about that at all.
Exactly.
The customer cares about what the customer needs, of course.
Yep.
So the better thing to do is to create the website that speaks to that customer and positions you as the guide. You're here to help that customer through the difficulty they're experiencing and get them to that end goal that they have.
Absolutely, yeah, and I remember that was a big part of it, is really what problem are you solving? You know, when they come to your site, do they know that you can solve that problem, right? Because if they're confused or if they don't even see the problem and it's just all about you,
right?
Well, what's to prompt them to move forward and actually, contact you so that you can start building a relationship and ultimately, helping them with that problem.
Exactly.
So that was another critical piece. One of the things I also wanted to touch on, and we can feel free to critique this a little bit, but I remember as I built this out initially, I thought it would be really helpful to have a lot of content and have different options for people. And then I quickly realized that was actually not a best practice because I was creating too much confusion, and too many options can sometimes lead us to information overload, paralysis by analysis.
Absolutely.
So you guys will see here, I have a number of different menu options, and I think that was to my own detriment. One of the things that we worked together on was really consolidating that and making it very clear where we wanted that customer journey to start.
Right.
And I think that was a really critical piece, right? We want to be directing the clients, as you said, to where we ultimately want to then lead them through the journey and process that we're going to be doing together.
Right.
If you could kind of walk through kind of how exciting that was, and I thought that was a great thing that we came up with.
Absolutely. So when we start talking about this piece, there's a couple things I want to talk about. So the first thing is we're serving two masters in a way. We're appealing to two different audiences when it comes to your website. We have to reach the Google search engine machine, and the Google search engine machine wants all of those words and all of that description and all of that content.
Yes.
You have to have it. So people are telling you, load up your website with content to attract the search engines. That's true, but we have to be very careful how we present that information, because if you put all that information on your homepage, that's the second person that we're really appealing to. It's that human person that's actually coming to the website. And if they see all this content, they're going to freeze up, they're going to turn around, and they're going to leave your website.
Yeah, and that dichotomy, I think, is such a hard thing to balance.
It is, yeah. So what you really want to do is see that your website has a hierarchy of pages. So picture your home pages at the top, and then underneath your home pages, you've got some sub-pages, maybe about, services, contact information, and then maybe underneath your services, you have 3 or 4 categories underneath that. So can you see that kind of a chart, a tree, home, and then several levels, and then several more levels?
You're allowing them to explore as opposed to just throwing it all at them right up front.
Exactly. So all that content that Rick's talking about that you need on your website, it should go on those internal pages. Google doesn't care what page it's on. Google can see every page on your website. So as long as the information is in there, no matter how deep it's in there, Google will still get to it. But we can appeal to that human visitor that's coming to our homepage, and we're allowing them to decide, to choose how to walk through it. So they come to your homepage, we want it to be clean, simple, offer them a couple choices. Not too many, but just a couple, and they can say, okay, I'm interested in learning more about that topic. And then they click it, and then they're on your services page. And then you can say, these are our 3 main services. And immediately they'll think, oh, I want to learn more about this one. And they click it. Now, they're 3 pages deep. They've asked, tell me more twice. Then you can give them the information. That's when it makes sense.
I love that. And for you guys to see a real example, if you click now my updated Start Here button, you're going to see exactly how we set that customer journey up. So ideally, we're making it a lot easier for people who are coming to the website to understand where they're falling into that journey and what type of services the company is able to offer them. So that's a really great example that you can compare and contrast to kind of what we have lacking here versus what ultimately CJ has now redesigned.
Rick had the forethought to think, I want to start here because I want to give them a place that they can begin. So if we were to look at this, would you hover over this Start Here button? And what you'll see is that there's a couple options underneath it. So they're still needing to make a choice, and they may not know at this moment which one of those is the right choice. So what we're building right now is a new Start Here page, so they won't necessarily see those options. They'll click Start Here, and then we're going to kind of present, these are some options. Which kind of these people are you today? What do you want to learn more about today? And then they'll choose it. It's like we're leading them through it.
Yeah, and that was the part I was really excited about, because I mean, you can see right here, a lot of people might not even know what I mean by outsourced CFO. So now by able to having them visually understand, you know, where do I fall into this service model, and I think that's going to be really exciting, and I can't wait to have that roll out very shortly. One of the other things I wanted to touch on was some of the call to actions that we want to be emphasizing with the website, because ultimately, again, to CJ's point, question number 1, what do we want clients to do when they come to the site?
Right.
In my case, ideally, they're scheduling a meeting to have a further conversation where I can get to know them and their goals. And so we have a few different call to actions here. I'd love to get your thoughts on best practices for call to actions and how that gets implemented.
Absolutely. Think about what you want your customer to do very first. You want them to call you, you want them to send you an email, maybe you have a form you need them to fill out to get some information. What do you want them to do first? And that's the thing that you're going to offer them. I also like to recommend maybe you have some sort of an introductory offer, like a free trial or a free demo, or in this case, a discovery session. That's a great call to action. It doesn't cost them anything to try it and find out more if it's the right fit, but it allows you still to walk through those steps. Always think of it like your customer is brand new to you and you want to get them way over here to where they're purchasing your services. They're not going to jump from here to there. You've got to see it as a progressive series of steps. So the very first time you meet someone, you don't say, buy my thing, right? You say, let's have another conversation. Let's talk about what your needs are. Let's talk about what that looks like. Let's talk about what else we need to do. And then over here, you've reached the point where they're going to sign up for your services.
That's a great point. And you'll notice actually now on the site, there's a series of freebies that we've implemented for that exact process as well. So that was really exciting. Same line of thought. I mean, basically you're asking people to come to the website and instantly meet with us. You know, some people that might be their intention, but others who we've gone only just from strangers, likely not going to be the case. They need some type of introduction that's going to be taking place. That was really a helpful step. And then one of the things I also wanted to make sure we touched on is, if you can scroll down a little bit, just how involved should that homepage be? You know, is it too busy? Is it busy enough? As you're kind of building these out, is there a place where people get a little too crazy with things? I'd love to give some cautionary tales.
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to pick on his site just a little bit, but he's inviting me to do that. So that top picture, it's kind of clean, it's kind of inviting, it's all right, I like it. I want to, in our new version, we're going to appeal a little more to that customer personally, make them self-identify, rule them in or rule them out, I think is what you were talking about earlier. This right here, this line of where you've been seen, this is known as social proof. This is excellent. You just want to show that you've got connections in other places, people know you, use you, you're not new to the scene. And then here, I see a good and I see a bad. Are you ready? So the good is company and personal financial planning for business owners. That's pretty clear. That's a pretty clear what we're doing. And then you have this paragraph right here. I don't think anyone's going to read this paragraph.
Unlikely.
That's typical. That's typical. You want to limit exactly what you're putting on that home page. But I do like in this next section, we've got these big 3 buttons right here that kind of help lead into those possible 3 options that you could be looking for. So that's good. I like that. So we'll be tweaking some of these things a little bit. Keeping some of the good, changing it up a little bit. I always think there's room for improvement.
No, and that's what I was so excited about, because I agree. And frankly, I did receive compliments on the site itself, but there was really, our focus was that customer journey.
Right.
And what I realized was, even if it looks pretty, it's not necessarily providing the journey that we wanted. And that was so critical as we started building this out. What got me really excited. And so I know we've covered a lot of information, right? We've hit on, ultimately, how do you even get started with this? A couple of resources there, which we'll link to in the course notes. We also touched on where to potentially host your site and what is involved there, again, with resources through the show notes.
Yeah.
And you also have, which it's unbelievable content, a whole video series for anyone who wants to dive even deeper. So if you please want to touch on that, I'm sure all of the audience would be more than happy to hear about it.
Absolutely. I'm offering you a couple free gifts. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to jump right in and set up your own hosting and just take off, I'm going to provide a link for you in the show notes. You can click it and just go for it.
That's awesome.
If you want to reach out to me because you want me to help you with that process, of course, I would love to. And you can find me at gilbertstudios.com. There'll be a link in the show notes as well. Now, the course that Rick is talking about is what I refer to as my free video workshop. It's a simple course, but it can go pretty deep. There's 7 videos. They're each about 10 minutes long, so it's not too cumbersome. You can take it one bite at a time, and it allows you to walk through several different aspects of your website. I really want you to think of your website like a tool for your business.
Yeah, as it is.
Absolutely it is. Most people, they know they need a website, but they just don't know what to do with it. So I put this course together to walk you through the concept of your website. It's a tool for your business. And because of that, we want it to help you attract more customers, make more sales, and improve your customer service, something that's often overlooked. So each one of these videos is going to dive into one of those pieces, give you some exercises, some questions to think about, and then some ways for you to take it forward from there.
I love that. Thank you so much for offering that. I mean, that's an amazing benefit. And frankly, I would not move forward through this course until you've gone through this. Again, think of what this is. I mean, likely you're making the first impression on anyone you meet. This is probably the second impression they're going to find, right? Literally, nowadays, you meet someone, what do? You Google them.
Right.
And what's going to happen? They're going to see your website. When they Google you, this is going to be the first thing they look at. How do you want that experience to be for them, right? So I wouldn't go forward until you've literally done. I mean, ideally, we've given a lot of information here.
Sure.
But you're giving even more information there, and I would encourage you and implore you to take CJ up on that incredible opportunity.
Absolutely.
So CJ, I want to thank you again so much. I mean, it's been a pleasure working with you, and this is amazing information to be able to pass on.
My pleasure.
To our enrollees. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Wow, thank you, CJ. So just to recap, we covered a lot of information. First off, where do you own your material, right? The different sites available to you. Where do you park it as far as hosting? And ultimately, how do you design it, and what does that customer experience look like? Remember, this course is all about taking action. CJ's provided a ton of content for free to all of you, so please take him up on that. Dive in, explore it. And once you finish, let's keep going and move along on your journey to financial freedom.